All right, so we're diving right into this Doomsday Glacier thing, huh? I've got to say, that name alone is enough to make you want to hide under the covers,
Yeah, it's definitely an attention grabber.
to say the least. But let's try and sift through the drama, yeah, figure out what the real deal is with this whole Thwaites Glacier situation in Antarctica.
Exactly.
Our listeners have sent over a bunch of articles, even
Uh-huh.
what looks like a chunk of a research paper on this, so those are our tools for this deep dive.
All right. Sounds good. That's actually really helpful because I think it's easy to get caught up in all the hype. With a name like Doomsday Glacier,
Yeah.
people might jump to, well,
Doomsday conclusions.
exactly. But we need to look at the science, separate the facts from the apocalypse movies.
Totally. So let's do that. First things first, for those of us who haven't spent a lot of time with an atlas lately, what exactly are we talking about here? Where is this glacier and like how big are we talking?
Okay, so picture this.
Mm.
A glacier, right? But it's the size of Florida.
Whoa, hold on. The size of Florida. That's huge.
It's massive.
Yeah.
And that's part of why it's so important. See, Thwaites, it's like this enormous ice dam, right? Holding back this even bigger ice sheet in West Antarctica.
Okay, so if that dam were to break.
Oh, then we're talking serious sea level rise, like several meters potentially.
Meters. Wow. Okay, so that's where the doomsday thing starts to feel a little less fictional.
Yeah, and even if it doesn't all vanish overnight, this News 18 article, they're mentioning a 65-centimeter rise.
That's still what, like a foot and a half of water higher?
Yeah, at least. And that's global.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about a few lost beaches here.
No, that's whole cities, entire islands underwater.
Absolutely. Places like Bangladesh, the Pacific Islands, they'd be
Yeah.
hit incredibly hard.
Right, right.
And it's not just the water itself either. Think about the domino effect. Economies, migration patterns, entire ways of life, all thrown into chaos. And it's not just future stuff either. Like Thwaites is already messing with things like global ocean currents, weather patterns, all because it's melting right now.
Oh, wow. I hadn't thought about that. It's easy to get caught up in the what if and forget that, yeah, this is already happening.
It's a lot to wrap your head around for sure. And speaking of wrapping heads around things, this research excerpt you sent, it's it gets pretty deep into the weeds on how this melting is actually happening.
Oh, yeah. Like, what's the gist?
Well, they're talking about something called submarine basal melting. Basically, you've got these warm ocean currents, right?
Right.
And they're flowing way under the glacier, like eating away at it from the bottom up.
So it's not just the air temperature, but this, like, hidden erosion happening.
Exactly. And this research seems particularly concerned with how fast it's all happening. Like, their findings suggest Thwaites has been losing ice faster and faster these past few decades.
Yo, that's not good. Although the News 18 article did say it could take, like, 200 years for the whole glacier to melt. Which, I don't know, that feels like both a long and a very short time.
I get you. It's like, phew, we've got time, but also, yikes, that's not that long. But here's the thing, and this is crucial. Thwaites, it's like a keystone,
A keystone.
like in an archway. Pull that keystone out, the whole thing collapses. Thwaites is holding back this massive West Antarctic ice sheet. So if it goes
The whole ice sheet could go.
like a line of dominoes,
Yeah.
one falls and then boom, the whole thing goes down. And we're talking a way bigger sea level rise than just Thwaites on its own.
So it's not just one glacier. It's like this whole chain reaction we're talking about. Man.
It's a lot, yeah. And I can see someone listening right now, like thinking, okay, but I live in Kansas. Why should I care about a glacier like all the way down in Antarctica?
Right. It's easy to feel pretty far removed from all of this. So how would you respond to that? What does this mean for someone in, well, Kansas or wherever they might be?
Think of it like this. It's all connected, right? Like a spider web, maybe.
Yeah.
You touch one part and the whole thing, it vibrates. Thwaites, it's just one part of this massive global system. So even if you're nowhere near the coast, rising sea levels, they're going to cause ripples.
Okay, so like what? What kind of ripples? Give me a for instance.
Well, look at the economy. We're talking about port cities, global trade routes, all thrown out of whack. That means supply chains, the cost of goods, even jobs, it can all be impacted no matter where you are.
Yeah, it really hits home that we're all connected, huh?
Absolutely. And we haven't even gotten into climate migration. Imagine millions displaced by rising water. That's going to put pressure on housing, resources, everything, even in places far from the coast.
It's a lot to process, honestly. It does feel pretty overwhelming. Is there any, I don't know, any good news here, or are we just staring down the doomsday part of the glacier?
Well, I wouldn't say it's all doom and gloom. I think of this as like a wake-up call, you
Yeah.
know, not a reason to panic. Understanding the science like we're doing here, that's step one. It lets us make better choices.
So for our listeners still with us after that cheerful thought, what can they do? What's one thing they could walk away from this deep dive and, actually put into action?
Honestly, there's so much. Supporting policies that actually tackle climate change, that's huge. But even just talking about it, with your friends, your family, your neighbor, getting people informed, that matters more than you think.
Right, those ripples again, our actions, even the little ones, they all add up.
Exactly. And yeah, this whole Thwaites Glacier situation, it can feel huge, overwhelming. But humans are pretty amazing when you think about it. We're problem solvers. We adapt. The future isn't set in stone. We can still change the course.
I like that. A little bit of hope to go with our Doomsday Glacier. Thanks for diving into this with me today.